weekend racing. It's time to recap it. And who better to do it than Michael and Magic? Two bros/pros who cover the highs and lows of racing around the globe on every one of their shows. Real fans look forward to these guys and their last thoughts, cause they know they're not talking out of their royal ascot. What they say makes sense. So ladies and gents, sit back and relax as Blinkers Off presents The Magic Mike Show, where you hear the experts speak. The Magic Mike Show. Tune into the show every week. The Magic Mike Show. You can trust the show is the bomb because it's being brought to you by RacingDudes.com.
What's up, everybody? I'm Magic.
And I'm Mike.
And this is the Magic Mike Show after a wild weekend at Woodbine and lots of awesome performances from the female divisions. Lots of great racing to talk about. How are you doing today?
I'm doing pretty good, man. I'm doing pretty good. I got to admit, this weekend was brutal. Like, there's a lot of what Mike got wrong this weekend. It was kind of rough. I was in a monster tournament, the big one on horse tourneys, and I just whiffed all weekend, and it sucked. And then Belmont was just, I guess the best way to put it is unpredictable. I mean, we had like a 0 for 20 horse break its maiden in a turf sprint at 19-1. We had a first-time starter. We had a bunch of maiden special weights that were just ultra difficult and producing odd results. I mean, so it was just, all in all, it was a rough weekend on the horse side. Luckily, football went well yesterday. We had a good time in the NFL, but man, horse racing this weekend was rough to predict. But we did get to see some great performances, and I'm excited to see a couple of these 2-year-olds. Although I'm bummed, the news of Volatile just retired came out like literally 5 minutes before this podcast starts, and that kind of sucks, man. Like we were going to see him at the Breeders' Cup, and it's one of those like just ultra talented sprinters in a fun division. So it definitely leaves that race wide open. But man, it's a bummer when you lose a star like that this late in the season. Yeah, that was literally right before we hit the live button. I saw the text from Aaron saying that Volatile was retired due to injury. I said, wait, what? Yeah, it's out there. But it sucks. He was, if not going to be the favorite, he's going to be a favorite for the Breeders' Cup Dirt Sprint. So, man, it makes it easier, for Steve Asmussen because now he knows he can put Yopon in there, the 3-year-old, if he wants. But that was tough. Yeah. It's just, you get to see these sprinters. So like it's just a really fun division because you have a lot of horses that get gelded that stick around longer in that division. So you just have these years versus each other, and it's talent versus talent versus talent. And when you have one of those top horses and you're going to get to see him, it's something you always look forward to. And it's kind of a bummer because I would have bet against that horse in the Breeders' Cup. I was kind of excited to go against it because I don't think it's faced the pace pressure and the talent before coming back, chasing it down that would have faced in the Breeders' Cup. But, it's just a bummer that we'll never get to see it now. Yeah, that race at, what was it, the Aristides at Churchill Downs, whatever it was, that it was this big coming out party that just made us all go, holy F. Like, it was a great one. So he looked damn good at Saratoga, too. I mean, he got soft fractions those first two, but man, he came home fast, and he looked like he could have kept going another 2 furlongs that day. So it's a bummer that we lose a superstar. Yeah, it's always tough. That's not going to be the best thing that either one of us saw, obviously. I got a couple of good ones here, but I'm curious to hear from you. What's the best thing you saw this weekend? Man, it's going to be it's going to be a horse that we're going to talk about later, but I'm not going to use that horse because I actually really like this horse. And Nyquist is a superstar sire. We're starting to see him come out. So I know you know who I'm talking about now, but we'll get there later. I mean, I'm pumped for next Monday night's game. Not even this Monday. We'll skip this Monday night's game. You know who's playing next Monday night? No, not a clue. Chiefs at Ravens. Oh, that's right. Yeah. So let's get pumped a week early. Let's get pumped a week. It's going to be my best thing I saw next week, too, because I cannot wait for these two teams to play. Probably the best two teams in football. Loving me some NFL right now. And the fact that we get to see them go head to head is going to be absolutely crazy. It's a lot of fun to see what Mahomes can do. We saw him last Sunday really play poorly for about 2.5 quarters and then just turn it on. And so it's going to be fun to see what he can do against that Ravens team and whether or not the Chiefs defense can stop the run. So I'm already excited about next Monday night's football game. I don't really like this Monday night's, but I'm excited about next Monday night's football game. I think the most exciting thing about tonight's game is that it's Saints at Raiders, so you can see the Las Vegas Stadium. Like yesterday was great Sunday because you could watch the SoFi Stadium if you hadn't seen what it looked like inside. I'm like, God, that's such a gorgeous stadium. They did such a great job building it. And then you can, the Raider Stadium from all the pictures and stuff that I've seen, it looks great. So I guess that's the marquee tonight, because it's not Derek Carr versus, whatever's left of Drew Brees' arms. So, but by the way, shout out to Jared because, and to John Lees for messaging me this, when the Chiefs won the beat the Chargers.
like the games but like I don't think the ball's even officially landed after going to the uprights. John Lee's messages me. He says, "Well, that's got to be a good thing for your buddy, right? About the whole Chiefs Chargers thing that we talked about in episode 200." So, Jared, we didn't get to call you this time, but we got you next time, buddy. Don't you worry, because that happened at Kansas City. So when they come to Kansas City later this year, we'll be giving you a call.
Love that John Lees is listening and watching too. Appreciate that. Yeah, so Gruden has called the stadium the Death Star now for like 2.5 years, the one in Vegas. So the Vegas media has now adopted it with calling it the Death Star. And one of the cool things I'm looking forward to here with Vegas having an NFL team, when they got a hockey team, the Golden Knights, they were the most public team because everyone in Las Vegas would go and bet them before the game. The sports book, they've already started to talk about this, some of the sports book operators, how Vegas has become the biggest public NFL team. So they're already getting hammered on these lines, especially the Monday night line where they said they're just taking money all day today on Vegas, 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 Vegas. So it's interesting because it'll be, in the NFL, they don't usually move the line when the public is hammering it. So you've got some interesting exposure here from the books and whether or not they're going to be all sitting in Vegas rooting against Vegas every single game this year.
It makes perfect sense. I love the stadium because I used to, when we were there for NHC, you were staying at the hotel on the Strip. I was staying with my buddy Mike, who lives a little bit off the Strip. And every time he was taking me to, or I was taking a lift back to his house after the day, we'd go past the construction. And I'm like, God, this looks like such a cool stadium.
Gorgeous, yeah.
And then the aerial views, I swear it looks like a giant hockey puck because it's a circle. It's black around the outsides. And then you get like here, I'll show you. You get like a commemorative hockey puck. You've got the silver in the middle. That's exactly what the Raiders stadium, that's what the Raiders stadium looks like. So minus the Red Wings logo. It'd be really cool, really dope and a little weird if they had the Red Wings logo and the planet right in the middle of it.
It'd be a little strange. It's they also, if you haven't seen it, check out what they did for season ticket holders. Really freaking cool online. They gave them like a replica stadium. You open the box, then you open this replica stadium, and then your ticket is like embedded in the middle of it. You don't get to go to any games this year, but the actual like the swag they put around these tickets was actually really cool. So if you haven't seen it, check it out. It's on Twitter, YouTube. You can see it there.
Wow. Damn. I wish I'd known about that. I think I actually would have bought a season because you can't use it. So like
you get refunded, you get to keep the rest of it.
Yeah, exactly. Best thing that I saw, oh man, it was tough. I'm gonna go with two, but they're both quick. One of them we talked about in our text chain. And Andy Serling. I don't have any respect for Andy Serling as a human being. I just have like zero respect for him as a human being. However, the fact that on Thursday when it was the Miners Mark Stakes at Belmont Park, and Orlando Noda had that red hot meet at Saratoga. He enters Danny, California for his first stakes try. Now he's they're going like a mile and a half, something really crazy long marathon distance.
Yeah, it was a mile and a half from I think it was mile and 3/16.
It was something really long. He'd never gone close to that far. He's going up against Rocketry and You're to Blame, who have been very camera shy, but they at least have proven at this distance in the past. Horse takes him gate to wire. I thought it was actually a legitimate performance. But twice in the race preview and then immediately afterwards, Andy Serling all but called the trainer a complete cheat. Basically called him the next Jorge Navarro. And then you said Horse Racing Twitter's already decided Orlando Noda is the new Navarro/Service. I'm not saying any of that. I don't know anything about him. I haven't really watched his form or with the way his horses are doing, other than I know that he had a pretty good Saratoga meet from a percentage wise. But the fact that you have Naira's official on-air person blatantly calling out somebody for cheating on air, I was like, well, the sport's moving in the right direction, because everyone criticizes media because we don't call people cheaters. And it's because if we do it and we don't have ample proof, we're going to start getting phone calls from their wives telling us that they, things are, not on the up and up. And then how dare you do that without ample amount of proof? Okay. So somebody named Andy Serling does that. That's a big step in the right direction for us.
But you also have to be careful too. Because in certain times you have to be careful, because like I don't know if Andy Serling 100% knows that's true, right? So like
no, he probably doesn't.
We definitely tiptoed around it in the Derby podcast, right? And like neither of us have 100% proof, but there's the certain results that push your mind in a certain direction, and that's really all we can say, right?
Yeah.
So it is interesting though that at least the conversation's being had. And it's funny, I talked about how I felt like I made a mistake on that Derby because I didn't handicap that part of it. I definitely had Danny California as a must-choose in that race. We'll just put it that way.
Well, and not for that reason at all. Because, like I said, I haven't paid enough attention, so I don't. I don't know, like you and Ricky know for paying close attention in New York. But I texted Ricky when I saw that field. I was like, "This is a trash field," and I was like, "I bet you that Danny California is going to win this." And my inkling was he's the only one that's won on dirt all year in a 5-horse race.
He also was a lone speed there. Yep. And Rocketry and You're to Blame aren't exactly burners, and they're the definition of a plotter. They don't stop, but man, they don't really go either. They're just they're one pace the whole way through, right? It's a fixie bike. So there's just not too much that you can do from that perspective, where you just know you're going to go that same speed. And if Danny California can walk on the lead, he can get him home, especially if he has some assistance, which he may or may not have had. Who knows?
Also, real quick, you remember the horse at Charlestown that was leading by a country mile and took that sharp turn off? Yep. Into the track. So his name is River Crosswood RVF. I'm a little late to this because I think this happened a couple of weeks ago, but I just found out about it over the weekend. He did it a second time. So he did it as the favorite, comes back, wins a race in August, then did it again in September. Literally the same exact spot on the track, just sharp right turn, KF and C, I'm going back to the barn. He's officially banned from Charlestown. Do you understand how bad of a horse or human being you have to be for freaking Charlestown to say, get out and don't come back? Like, that's a new level of terrible. And I love this horse so much now.
I mean, you kind of I would let him run all the time. It's spice, right? It's an ultimate spice factor, because you just don't know, is that horse actually going to corner? Because he corners really well. He just corners in both directions. We don't see that all the time. So, and you also got to question the training job at this point. Doing it once, okay, fine. The horse bolted. The horse does it twice. Like, who's the trainer? We got to talk about that a little bit, because that's not the. You
bring up a great point, because in West Virginia, the minimum payout is $2.20. You could be 1 to 9, and you could take 99% of the show pool. You're getting $2.20 back instead of $2.10. And so tracks like Charlestown are targets for people who like to just dump a lot into show pools, because you're getting twice as much of a return than what you would have had before. Not twice, I don't know, whatever. I'm not the math person. We've talked about this. The point is, you have a horse like that.
Double 10 cents. You are correct.
Well, but it's the $2, whatever. Anyways, my camera is freaking out trying to figure out how to do math. Stop it, camera. Why does it keep doing that? One of these times I'm going to figure out why my camera keeps doing that on this show.
Or get a new one of the two.
But the point is, when you have a horse like this who's taking a ton of money, he's been favored all 3 of those times. He's taking a ton of money. You're tuning in as a gambler because you got the people who are like, well, he's the favorite. He's going to win. If he wins, he's going to win by a lot. But if he doesn't, if he veers off, everybody who just dumps show money on, you do the show spread when there's plunges on. Yep. You're going to cash really well as a show plunger. So I think it's great that there are obvious safety reasons. So we're being a bit glib about it. But, man, I just can't believe that Charlestown is the track that's gone, nope, that's a little shady. We don't like that.
Or just throw a temp rail there. I mean, that solves the problem too. Let's be honest. This isn't exactly it doesn't take a rocket science to figure out how to block the entry to that area. Is it better? I mean, I'm kind of bummed. It's a great race to play the try. Just chuck him. If he does that every other race and you're chucking him in the try and it's the favorite, I mean, you can get some good prices home. So definitely interesting that we're not going to get that opportunity. The next question is obviously, where does it go next? Do they have this same shoot? Because I think that was on the way back to the barn at Charlestown. So the horse just wanted to go get dinner a little bit early. I think that's all the goal was for the horse. So it'd be interesting to see where that horse shows up and whether or not we have the same predicament that we have there at Charlestown.
Shoot, send him into a big circuit. Let's see this happen somewhere really epic. Let's see him try to do that with Paco Lopez aboard. Paco was going to be hanging off the saddle, steering him.
Like New York traffic?
Exactly, like New York traffic. On today's show, we're looking at the weekend that was at Woodbine. We're also going to talk about a big race from Belmont Park, but I'm just excited because we're going to talk about Woodbine one more time this year, Mike, and we're going to take a look at the late pick 4 ticket that we gave out on Thursday's show. Let's get into it. Riders up. All right, Mike, let's kick things off, taking a look at the late pick 4 sequence at Woodbine on Saturday, September 19th. The big race, the headline race, kick things off. That's the grade 1, $1 million Rico Woodbine Mile. Field of 8 horses in here, 7 of them males. The lone filly, the lone female, it was Starship Jubilee. On the podcast, I picked her. You didn't. You had great reasons why I was tepid about her. And I said the big reason, it's just because she loves to win. I'll be damned, this horse found a way to win again. I don't want anything to do with her in the Breeders' Cup Mile, which is what this race gave her a qualification for. But, I mean, I thought it was really great that she did what she did. What do you think about this race?
I mean, I had two main takeaways here. Starship Jubilee, ultra impressive. Hadn't run at the mile distance since like 2017 or 2018. Mm-hmm. So it's been a long time since she wanted a mile, and it was against a lot worse than this. So awesome job by her to be able to get home. Amazing story overall. If you haven't looked at Starship Jubilee, check her out. She's a really cool racehorse that was claimed for cheap, and it was cool to see her trainer Rob Altred, I think it is, actually tearing up when he was talking about the story during an interview. I mean, it was just really cool to see how much has gone into this. I'm sorry, Kevin Altred, how much has gone into this training job, and they claimed this horse for peanuts on the dollar way back when. I think it was like $16,000 at Gulfstream, something crazy like that. And she's now over a $2 million horse. Really cool to see her beat the boys here. Canadian Horse of the Year last year, being able to win the big one in Canada. Also an awesome story from there. So all the credit to Starship Jubilee. She ran her heart out. And it's cool to see Justin Stein, too, pick up this mount, the leading jockey up there, one of the leading jockeys up there, be able to win this race when he never would have ridden a horse like this had they all shipped in during a non-COVID year. So really cool storylines all around there. 100% agree with you. Not going to use Starship Jubilee in the mile. This is a horse I want no part of going this short. She goes longer, maybe we can talk about it, but I still think that she's going to be an overbet horse in that spot. Really disappointed in War Will. I talked about War Will on the podcast. God, sat the trip and just didn't fire. I mean, there really is no other way to put that. March to the Arch was a little too far back, and Starship Jubilee got first run. But to me, the two big takeaways here were Starship Jubilee, thumbs up from you, and War Will, big ass thumbs down. I mean, that was not good.
He didn't pick up his feet like off the turn. I was like, War Will's got this. He's gone. Yeah. And he just then he struggled to get past Admiralty Pier. And I was like, this is not a horse you should be struggling. Like this horse he set the fractions and he ran unopposed early, but I'm like, he was already backing up. I was like, War should have gotten past him at the top of the stretch. And then he struggled. And then Starship Jubilee gets the victory. I think it's her 6th or 7th victory at Woodbine. So she clearly loves the track. But I mean, 38 starts, 19 wins. This is a horse who, by the way, so the Adderts had her. They claimed her for 16, like you said. They tried selling her at the end of 2018. She was an RNA for $425,000. That means nobody was willing to pay at that auction $425,000 for her. Adderts said, F it. They privately sold her to a Blue Heaven farm who was like, all right, we'll let her stay with you training-wise. And then she wins EP Taylor, grade 1 last October at Woodbine. Now she wins this with $1 million race. It's a really great story. I think that's where we stop with pretty much every horse in this race. I don't want March of the Arch. It just seems to have too many problems. Always leaves himself with too much to do. I don't want anything to do with him going 2-turn mile at Keeneland. War of Will, let's see what he does. This was his first start since July, so he had a little over 2 months off. The Breeders' Cup Mile would theoretically be his second start off of a little bit of a freshening. I'll wait and see who shows up for that one, but he's the only one I'd have any interest in playing at Keeneland. And the big reason is because he got that big win at Keeneland in July. So that's the only reason I would take him. Do you feel the same way?
Yeah, I'm going to give War Will a shot back. And my main reason is actually going to be because it's a 2-turn mile. Woodbine is a 1-turn mile, and I think the fractions represented that. Not necessarily the 23 and 346. I mean, that is faster than what they went at Keeneland. That 109, pretty hot, and he was a length off that. They went 111, I think it was, at Keeneland. The 132 time is very fast for a mile. Another reason why I thought that the Starship Jubilee ran her eyeballs out in this spot, because that's just surprising to me that she can do that after going so much longer. Mm-hmm. But War Will 2-turn mile, I think, is better suited for it. He wants to go more distance. I think he got a little bit run off his feet here, and that's why we didn't see that same kick down the lane.
Yeah, you have to treat these 1-turn miles almost like an extended sprint. Like how we handicap 7 furlong races on dirt. That's the same way you got to do it. So I'm with you. We'll just the rest of these horses, a value proposition. The Shirl Spite. The only thing Shirl Spite was good for was taking a lot of money. That was the only thing that worked out well from that point.
Yeah, probably a good idea that Shirl Spite, that he wasn't in the Derby.
We got it that time. We'll move on to the second leg of the late pick 4 sequence. This is the only one that neither of us nailed. We talked about the horse that wins the Woodbine Care Stakes. He had a field of 7 2-year-old fillies going 5 furlongs on the inner turf course. We said on the show, we both agreed there's a lot of speed here. You and I both really liked the speed horses, the ones that we loved. Illegal Smile, who ends up being your favorite. We both like Chatelet, who set the pace and then pooped out. And we said that, who's going to pick up the pieces here if you're handicapping this. We both thought Dirty Dangle could set the trip. My reason for not using Dirty Dangle is she barely beat Super Munnings, and I didn't want anything to do with Super Munnings, but fantastic job from Ralph Piemonte Jr. to get her trained up for this. And Sheena Ryan pilots her home for the second victory from as many starts. What did you take away from this?
Well, first off, this is one of the things people ask us the question. I'm new to the game. What's one of the things that I can do? We always recommend follow a circuit. I don't follow Woodbine that often, as I'm sure you could tell by the Thursday show. Everyone knows that I'm pretty upfront about that. The tournament featured a lot of Woodbine races this weekend. I had Dirty Dangle in every single tournament by this race because of the circuit, because you could see that the specifically the closes were being favored. You could watch race 2 of that day. There's a 40-1 shot that breaks its maiden coming from off the pace. If you watched any of the Friday races, which I was also watching because of the tournament, you saw that this was a likely outcome. This horse was bet from 10-1 to 5-1. So I used this horse in every tournament, even though I completely dismissed it on Thursday, unless it was someone that could pick up the pieces. It's things that you can start to pick up on a circuit when you see these type of things that can get you to horses. And that's one of the reasons why we talk about, following a specific circuit makes it a lot easier for you to get to winners, because you and I'll say I personally would not have used this horse on Thursday and would not have left this horse off a ticket on Saturday. And it's funny how you have that change when you go through that process, especially late Saturday after seeing some of the early results on Saturday. So first and foremost, it's one of the reasons why we talk about focusing on one circuit is huge if you want to try and really get into it and start learning more and more, because you can pick up on trends and start following this stuff. As far as the race, I thought Dirty Dangle ran huge. I mean, I thought this was a really impressive race, a really nice step forward. It was first time touching turf. I didn't think that any of these other horses ran poorly. So I almost want to say that Dirty Dangle is just that much more impressive. I didn't see the number back. Let me check it real quick here before I give Dirty Dangle a little too much credit. But coming back with a 75 buyer, not exactly blowing the water out of everybody, but we'll see what Dirty Dangle can do moving forward. I thought Illegal Smile ran well. I thought Rocket Reload ran well, but I'm not really sure what you want to do coming out of this race.
Yeah, this is a tough one. I'll take out of it that I wrote the note that this horse I thought was going to have the best stalking trip, and should have just stuck with it. Two freshman sires having unbelievable starts. One of them is Not This Time, who's Dirty Dangle's sire. She becomes the first grass winner for Not This Time, but even on the show I said just because Not This Time is 0 for 5, it's such a limited sample size. Don't hold that against her. I'm really mad at myself because I have all the notes to say I should have had this horse on my ticket and just didn't get it done. I guess that's horse racing, but it wouldn't have mattered anyways, because there was one race where you were right and I was dead wrong, and then I'd rather be out in leg 2 than be sitting there biting my nails into leg 4, waiting on a big score.
That's true, except I guess, well, that's true. You also save money that way because you don't bet back the double or the pick 3 if you're out in leg 2. So it helps you out from a financial perspective.
Race 3 in this sequence we'll talk about real quick. This is because we covered this. Saturday George was a horse that I didn't really want to use. I was taking him, but I hated the fact that he was the favorite at 3-1. He actually got lucky. Score got bet very heavily down to be the 5-2 favorite, which is a little bit shocking for me. Lots of maids in this, and this is a more restricted one. I think the big takeaway is that we looked at Saturday George, and a big note that I had for him is that $95,000 auction price, because these were horses that had to have gone through a public auction and be Ontario breds. The fact that he was the highest priced horse in the field and out of a war front mare, I was like, well, that's enough for me to make my ticket. I don't know. Do you take much from this, or you just say we got the win and move on?
Yeah, I mean, I think this is an important handicapping lesson. We often talk about, second time out, you see the biggest improvement. You saw the second time out horse here against a bunch of first time starters that look promising, get the job done. So, if you're looking at stringing these multi-race sequence together and you want to try and have a Chuck favorite versus a defensive use favorite, this is a classic defensive use and not a Chuck favorite, because you want to make sure you don't get beat by this horse, especially if you're getting 3-1. I mean, it's not a terrible price to have as a defensive use favorite in a pick 4 sequence. So, for me, this is really just a affirmation of that handicapping style that in these maiden races, if you have a horse you like second time out that ran well first time out, that's not the horse you should be fading. It's the one you should be using defensively and trying to beat with some of these first time starters.
I thought I was onto something for a minute, because Dursky, the 2 horse, was almost my top pick, and he's 20-1, and he goes off at under 7-1. I was watching the betting. I was like, shit. I was texting. I was like, I might be on. This could be great. I thought he had a pretty good debut. He was behind Gretzky the Great, a horse we're going to talk about in a few minutes here. And he ran okay. I guess with Saturday George too, he just got such an early lead. You're going 6.5 furlongs with that long of a stretch. Sometimes you see the horses back up. He got that early lead and he just held on. He did a really good job of that. So, but you brought the handicap angles, which is a big thing. What can we learn? What can we take away? Is there anything else, or was it a lot of first time starters here? A lot of good trips, or a lot of horses that I would see you want to take moving forward, at least, right?
Yeah, I mean, I think that, a horse like Colton's Dream, someone like that is a useful horse next time out, who showed some speed and then kind of just got caught a little bit later. I think there's some other interesting things here. Like we talked about Air Force Blue, the 10 horse, the horse you used, Valhalla Air Base. Air Force Blue, still winless on the turf, and got some money taken. So to me, it's understanding those sires and where they're being successful and where they're not being successful. That's one of the big parts of this. And so, being able to fade Air Force Blue early on, especially with those connections, it was helpful in my ticket that lost anyway, but at least I didn't waste a bullet there. And so I would say kind of paying attention to that is also a key takeaway here.
This last race here, this is where you were right and I was wrong, definitely wrong about this race. Race 12, the end of the pick 4 sequence, it's won by the 10, Checkerboard Floor. And my big play against was I didn't like that this horse was 9-2 after going off in the debut at 19-1, breaking the maiden in a second start at almost 10-1, was 9-1 there. It's like 9-2. Well, this is a wedding funeral situation. If you played this horse, you just got back-to-back funerals because this horse floated up to 10-1.
Back-to-back wedding.
I'm sorry. I'm sorry.
Back-to-back bachelorette party. This was the wedding.
Yeah. So, gets the job done here in the optional claimer spot. The horses that I loved, 11 Executive Search, Last American Exit, the 9 horse, they came in 3rd and 2nd respectively. But Last American Exit was a Robert Tiller horse, and so was the winner. And that was a reason you said you're using Checkerboard Floor. You liked both the Tiller horses. So hats off to you. Tell me what you liked about this race.
I mean, to me, Checkerboard Floor is just one of those horses where I thought the second was really impressive. I really liked the improved performance. I thought that the cutback and then the switch over to the synthetic helped. I liked the fact that he ran over a second faster in the first half mile there. And then, like you said, if I'm using Last American Exit, I'm going to use Checkerboard Floor. I'm not going to leave out. And in most cases, I think it's smart if you like a horse from a trainer, I think you got to use them both, because a lot of times you're going to see about equal talent in the two of them. And so if you're leaning one direction, I think you got to include both. And luckily in this case, we floated all the way up to 10-1 and got a nice price home to close it out, even though we didn't close anything out because we lost like 1. So, bummer there. But it does go to show that there, again, some of these angles that we talk about are relevant in these races. And especially if you're playing single races and you see this horse go from 9-2 to 10-1. And then you also saw Last American Exit get bet down from 5-1 or 12-1 down to 5-1. That to me means I'm going to probably place a win place bet or put a nice little show bet in on the 10 at a price and be able to try and get something back. Ironically, that exacta didn't suck either. I mean, there you go, the all Tiller exacta, and that's something I think, again, if you like one horse, they're probably about the same if the trainer's got both of them in there. It's probably not one that's significantly worse than the other. So you can also throw out the all trainer exacta sometimes.
Yeah, it paid $84.65 for $1. If you're watching live on Facebook, YouTube, Twitter, thanks for joining us. I was going to bring up the fact that, some people poo-poo on Woodbine because it's a 20-cent minimum, so you get a lot of more amateur money, kind of, devalues the pools a little bit. But take a look here. Sure, the 20-cent pick 3 pays $64.71. If you just use Starship Jubilee in the leg before, you got $887 for a 20-cent. Multiply that by 2.5, and that's what you're getting if this is a normal 50-cent base. So these sequences pay, and if you're playing them for multiple, for 40 cents, 60 cents, for $1, whatever, you're going to be able to make some money at Woodbine. So I liked that. I didn't like that, between the two of us, even we didn't hit this pick 4 this time, but I like the fact that, the results play out and they show Woodbine with that 20-cent minimum is still a variable playable spot, even if you're, more of an aggressive bettor, if you're more of an intermediate or even an advanced multi-race wager player.
Yeah, I mean, you look at what do we talk about with Kentucky Downs? It's all about field sizes. And man, you got those in spades all weekend at Woodbine. I mean, the tournament I was playing, again, it's optional races. So you're picking 12 of 30 races a day. Over half my plays each day was at Woodbine. Because we have fields of 10, 11, and 12, it's more likely to see a price there. The favorites are going off at a bigger number. It just gives you more options to find prices and to get big-time horses home. And so that 20-cent denomination's offset a little bit in that sense because you have these monster fields. So again, a great track that if you want to really learn this track, I think it's worthwhile just because you have those 20-cent denominations and you have these big fields. It's going to take some time, though, because it is a little unique having 2 turf tracks, one inside, one outside, and the synthetic in the middle. So same angles apply to a lot of different tracks, but this one's one where you definitely have to follow the circuit to be able to dial it in. Well,
I know Aaron with Racing Dudes has been watching very intently, waiting for us to talk about this next race. We'll move on to No. Jared doesn't watch our show. Are you kidding me? We'll move on to Sunday, the Grade 1 $250,000 Summer Stakes. This is one of 2 Grade 1 races for juveniles. They both come with Breeders' Cup winning year in tags. This is a Breeders' Cup winning year for the juvenile turf. Gretzky the Great, baby. He shoots, he scores. It's a hat trick. I was having all sorts of fun with all the hockey metaphors for the race. it was actually the biggest surprise to me wasn't that he won, because I very much love Gretzky the Great. It was that inquiry, and not just that there was an inquiry. That inquiry seemed to stretch on for quite a while, and I started to think, are they going to make a change? And not following Woodbine as closely as I do the California races, I'm like, I don't know what Canada's rules are about this. I don't, are they going to take him down? He ends up surviving the inquiry. Really great effort from him here. What do you think about Gretzky?
Well, my best thing I saw was going to be him surviving this inquiry. Because I don't know if you know this, but Contreras actually won an Emmy last night for best daytime performance for that pull-up that he did. I mean, and it's ridiculous because you saw this rewarded. I think it was at Remington a couple days, maybe a week and a half, 2 weeks ago, where the second place jockey, who's clearly getting destroyed. I mean, the fading back, the Gretzky the Great crossed over, but we didn't really need to check, did we? Like, come on, let's be serious here. So it's
maybe a slight check.
Yeah, I get it. Hey, look, it's like Ramsey in that pass interference call last Sunday night for the Rams. Like he definitely was beat and kind of got pushed, but it didn't really matter. And he made it look good, so he got the flag. It's the same thing, ready for repeat. Contreras was trying to get the flag. So you can't really blame him for it, but good job by you stewards. You should not have taken Gretzky the Great down here. I'm happy they didn't. He ran awesome, man. And this horse never looked like a loser. You had American Monarch in here, who was a loaded horse coming in from America, trying to take one down for the good old south of the border people. And Gretzky the Great, just like when he was Edmonton, was a winner. And he was able to get the job done, and he looked ultra impressive. I'm excited to see this horse come back. I'm interested to see where we see it next. What is it? This is the juvenile turf that this is the one you're in for. I think the turf sprint would be interesting with Gretzky the Great as well. He's got the talent to go shorter. And I also love the fact that we're starting to see Nyquist produce too. This is the son of Nyquist, now grade 1 winner on dirt and turf in the 2-year-old season. Pretty freaking incredible for a first class. So Nyquist is one of those sires you got to pay attention to now moving forward.
Yeah, that Nyquist, he had Vquist win the spin away a week or two ago. I can't remember how recently that was, but yeah, I mean, shouldn't be that surprised because he was the Breeders' Cup Juvenile Champion, then went on to win the Kentucky Derby. But to have this much success when there's all these, when you've got the Not This Times and you've got, American Pharaohs, throwing out so many great turf horses, for him to go up there and beat an American Pharaoh, very well regarded American Pharaoh and American Monarch, very impressive. One thing I really love, and I realized this after seeing who was riding Gretzky the Great, Kazushi Kimura was an Eclipse Award winner for Apprentice Jockey. Daisuke Fukumoto, who won the Woodbine Mile, or I'm sorry, the Queen's Plate. I'm sorry, won the Queen's Plate a week prior. Both young Japanese jockeys that are coming over to America. If you know anything about Japanese racing, the colony is extremely tough to break through, and there's a lot of issues where only the top 2 or 3 jockeys get all the good horses, and everyone else is just trying to pick up scraps underneath. It's a very difficult place to break in and stay established. The fact that 2 young Japanese jockeys have come over to North America and had such success at Woodbine, I think you're going to see a trickle-down effect. I think you're going to start to see more of them break into different areas in North America, maybe starting in Southern California a little bit. So if you start to see another Japanese jockey colony prospect come over, pay attention, because they know what the hell they're doing over there in Japan. So very great to see him get his first grade 1 win. I really thought Mark Casse and Gary Barber were going to have a day on Sunday. Gary Barber co-owns this horse. Mark Casse trains him. I was like, between the 2 stakes, I could easily see Gary Barber and Mark Casse walking home with both of them. So they got the job done here. Do you take anything away from a lot of these horses? Download was a very big long shot and stumbled out of the gate and never had a chance. Secret Potion, I don't know if maybe he just didn't like shipping. He usually likes to sit up close, and the fact that he wasn't close like he was in his debut, I think that probably hurt him.
Yeah, I mean, before we get into that, I do want to comment on Nyquist Stats first, because I got him up, and then I'll go back to the form. This is ridiculous. 2-year-olds, 9 for 38, 23%. Dirt sprinting, 6 for 24, with 4 other finishes in the money, 25%. I mean, just unbelievable for a first-time sire. I mean, 9 for 38 with 2-year-old starters. That's every horse that started. So 23% overall career as a sire is just, I mean, that's like, look, if you could claim that he was cheating, someone on Twitter would have claimed that Nyquist is cheating right now. I mean, the stats are that good right now coming out of Nyquist. So anytime he's putting someone out, you got to pay attention. Yeah. I mean, American Monarch is the one that I felt coming into here, and Secret Potion only missed by a half length to American Monarch in that maiden special weight. I thought those two would run better, and the Saratoga form didn't hold up as well here. Maybe they didn't like shipping. Maybe it was a different reason. but man, maybe having that race over the track was what what helped horses like Ready to Repeat and Gretzky the Great. The other thing you have to think about is both those horses were coming out of a mile and a 16th race. Are we sure the one-turn mile is what they want? Maybe there was some issue there. I mean, so it's going to be interesting to see what these horses do moving forward, because this was a different configuration from a track perspective for both of them. Second time out, you would have hoped they kind of stepped forward a little bit better. But Gretzky the Great also ran really well. I mean, this was the grade 1 older horses came home in 132 and change. They came home in 134 and change. I mean, yeah, it's 10 lengths or 2 seconds behind. They're 2-year-olds, and we're comparing that to Starship Jubilee, who's a $2 million winner, and War of Will, who's a multiple grade 1 winner on both dirt and turf. So let's take that with a grain of salt from that perspective and say, hey, 134 is kind of blazing here for a 2-year-old. So heck of a time they put up here. I do think having races over the track definitely helped Gretzky the Great and Ready to Repeat. And even if you look at like last year in the Woodbine Mile, El Trombetta, La Trombetta, El something, what I'm talking about.
El Tormenta.
There it is. See, that's magic just nailing it. El Tormenta, like just that hometown horse that was able to get the job done. And we talked about kind of the funky configuration here. And sometimes you have horses like Run Into Love You at Charlestown that are just better at their home course. And I think that definitely played into this result a little bit. I'm not going to take anything away from American Monarch or Secret Potion. And I will probably be interested in see if I can get a better price on either of them next time out.
One last thing I'll bring up real quick. Dolder Grand, who finished his third in this race, was still a maiden. The trainer Mark Casse compared him to War of Will. He said, the fact that he got beat in his debut and he probably shouldn't have, and then he ran well in the summer stakes. Dolder Grand, same thing. He should have won his debut, didn't, got third. Hits the board in the summer stakes. What I'm saying right now is, can we draft Dolder Grand in the fantasy draft? Can we put Can we 3 months in advance put a little flyer out like we get first dibs on Dolder Grand? Because if he's going to be like War of Will, I want this horse on my fantasy team definitely for next year.
Well, I mean, if Aaron, if he would actually take advice from people who are, very good at this league, top 2 at least, maybe he would consider adding a 2-year-old spot. So you can have one 2-year-old that goes into your team next year, kind of like a minor league spot in fantasy baseball drafts.
I like it.
It's fun to have that little 2-year-old spot. We have a 2-year-old draft at the end of Saratoga. And then everyone drafts. So then we get more content for the site to have that 2-year-old draft podcast. I mean, that would be awfully entertaining.
Just like with everything in horse racing, Mike, it makes too much sense for anybody who with power to actually go ahead and do it. So I like it. Even if you just add it to the roster, you don't get points, but then this takes the place of your 5th round pick next year.
Yeah. Hey, at least we have a czar. At least there's one person who's being a tyrant and just creating, not listening to anybody, versus horse racing where we have just too many people making decisions and no one actually agreeing on anything.
Yeah. Aaron brings up a great point. Well, he sounds like a horrific idea, and that's a horrific point. Uncle Mo wins the Breeders' Cup in Kentucky. Nyquist, son of Uncle Mo, wins the Breeders' Cup in Kentucky. Gretzky next?
I think he's forgetting one thing. Uncle Mo and Nyquist both did it over the dirt. Gretzky will be going over the turf.
What if he just throws up a complete Hail Mary and says, you know what, we're throwing him into the dirt, like what we saw Blaine Wright do with that damn horse that still can't win. They got second in the Breeders' Cup. Came down, he won one race on the turf at Golden Gate, tried to get into the Breeders' Cup juvenile turf. They wouldn't let him in. They said there's still spots available in the dirt, and he shows up.
God,
who was that? It was the horse that Dan loved. Anodor, that's who it is.
Anador, there you go. Yeah, I would say that they're going to go for the empty net with Gretzky the Great.
We'll move on to the last Grade 1 race at Woodbine to talk about the Grade 1 $250,000 Natal Stakes. This is Breeders' Cup winning for the juvenile fillies turf. Lady Spite Spear gets the job done as your 5-2 favorite. Almost didn't even race because if you were watching the live track feed, Mike, she reared up in the gate as they were waiting for the last horse, Seasons, to get in the gate. I'm sorry, it's Big Plants. Anyways, she reared up waiting for another horse to get in the gate, throws Emma Jane Wilson off the back. Emma was walking a little gingerly. I thought, she will be able to get on. I heard her on the feed just go, yeah, I'm all right. She hops back on. Lady Spite Spear goes off to win. Great performance here. I don't know if I want her in the Breeders' Cup.
Yeah, I mean, I liked Alda a lot, and she beat Alda. So
that's true.
That to me is kind of those, Aldo looks really good at Belmont, was able to break, it lost to Wink, and then they're able to break its maiden, comes back and wins the Catch a Glimpse. Now we get the second start here at Woodbine for Aldo, so there's no real track excuse there. And she was able to beat Aldo. And I thought Aldo was I played Aldo here. I would have played Aldo 5-2 as a tournament, so I didn't play Aldo 5-2. But I would have played Aldo of the two at 5-2, and both of them got good trips. Both of them ran well, and Lady Spike Spear, I kind of love the name, was able to beat Aldo. So I got to give her credit here in this spot. Will I play either in the Breeders' Cup? I don't know. I mean, it's going to be a lot dependent on who comes back. But I will say that I give Lady Spicebeer quite a bit of credit for being able to get in the job done here, because I thought she beat a really good horse.
Yes, I agree with you on that. Alda, I thought was going to be really tough, and I even thought, because Alda's a come from behind horse who really just likes to grind in the stretch, I was like, that long Woodbine stretch, man, that's going to be to her advantage. And Lady Spicebeer just said, keeping you back there. Credit to the Woodbine gate crew for making sure that Lady Spicebeer didn't, fall on herself and get hurt in the gate. Credit to them for being able to get her out there. Sleek Lynx was Aaron's pick. This was another maiden Mark Casse horse giving it a shot. Didn't really turn out to do anything. She missed finishing third by about a length. So, a decent effort here. I think Sleek Lynx moving forward, looking at 2021, I think Sleek Lynx would be a great horse to have. But yeah, again, as far as it goes for the Breeders' Cup, let's see what we can do with either some American horses or, who's coming from Europe, because that can be a big factor as well.
Yeah, I'm gonna Leak Corso voice. Terrible pick. I agree with you, Aaron. That I'm not interested in Sleek Lynx. One of the main reasons is because of where the horse debuted. Debuting at Gulfstream after the Champions Meet, not a great sign for a Casse horse. That's not, especially to then not win, not a great sign for a Casse horse. So that's not a horse I want to put too much money in. He's putting his best horses at other trace tracks during that non-Champions Meet at Gulfstream. He's looking at Keeneland. He's looking at Churchill Downs. He's looking at even Saratoga and in New York. He's not really looking to try and have a horse break its maiden in the lower tier of Florida Gulfstream racing. So to me, that's the kind of horse you kind of have to avoid. And it's, again, something you learn from understanding trainer tendency and understanding when they debut and where they debut their top horses. So Sleek Lynx is a pass for me in the moving forward.
I think I gave her too much excuse. I think it was one of those cases where I really wanted her to win. And so I was looking for excuses. And in that Gulfstream Park race, my excuse was I watched the replay and it's not in the trip notes, but the jockey loses his whip around the eighth pole. Right when he goes to switch over hands, it goes flying out and you see it kind of twirl on the replay. And so he was just all hands and heels. I was like, well, that was about the point when she started to struggle to pass. And so I was making up all these excuses for why she didn't break her maiden then. But you bring up a great point, and this is really where I should have stopped, is that once the championship meet ends at Gulfstream Park, don't take those horses out of big races, or from the summer meet. Don't take them in big races elsewhere, because it usually just doesn't pan out very well. If they're at Gulfstream Park for grade 6 races, that's fine, but moving out of there, it's not a good move.
Yeah, and part of it's the competition too. I mean, Pletcher takes most of his barn out of there. Brown takes most of his barn out of there. The competition is just depleted at Gulfstream Park, and so you have to expect that the form is not going to be the same Gulfstream Park in March that you were seeing Gulfstream Park in January, and so you have to take that into account, handicapping and what time that race was run at Gulfstream Park and where those horses can project moving forward.
We'll move on to one last race to talk about. We're going to go back to Saturday real quick at Belmont Park, the Grade 1 $250,000 Belmont Oaks Invitational Stakes. First things first, this might be the worst looking Grade 1 field I've ever seen. We said it when we saw the field draw. We're like, this is it. A Grade 1 $250,000 race. It's 46 years of this race. This is what we could put together. But Magic Attitude gets the job done as your favorite, making her North American debut. I thought there were a lot of things to really love about this. Yes, it was not a great field. She won by only 2 1/4 lengths, but Aaron brought up a great point. Javier Castellano rode Magic Attitude like she was the winner every step of the way. And I thought he did a great job piloting her. It's not easy to close from last in a 5-horse field and win on the turf, especially when the leader gets loose like Antoinette did. So I was very impressed. Gets a 93 buyer. Little lower than what I was hoping for. I was hoping for a high 90s and to get real excited about the Breeders' Cup, but loved the effort nonetheless. What'd you think?
I think if you want her in the Breeders' Cup, you should be happy about a 93 buyer. You're gonna get more value. Just saying. I agree that this race was visually impressive. There wasn't too much in here, but Castellano sitting chilly on a horse that's you can see in on the live stream right now that was in dead last at the mile point. It's just dead last. And they were not exactly trucking it up front. I mean, 114 is not flying for 6 furlongs. You saw him pick it up there a little bit, run sub 24 to that 137. But Castellano's just not that confident of a rider usually. So if they see him sitting chilly like this, and Antoinette, the field's not great, but Antoinette was the favorite, did have a pace advantage, did to come off a win in a graded stake. So, there's something that this horse had to beat. And it was first time in North America for the Motion Barn. I mean, I thought it was pretty impressive. With what we have seen out of other horses, am I going to play in the Breeders' Cup? I'm not sure, but I'll tell you, if I get 15-1 off this race, I'm awfully interested. And I do think you're going to get a price, because I think that other people are going to say well, this field sucked and the buyer's not great. So I'm not going to take this horse to take a big step forward, but motion often is better second time out in North America. So it's a logical improvement point off this race. I also think it was important to see this horse handle the North American turf. You see a lot of horses come over and struggle with how firm the North American turf can be from Europe. And so for this horse to come over and see it run so well, I think is a positive step moving forward. And I'm going to be looking at it on the Breeders' Cup. I'm not sure if I'll play it or not, but it's definitely a horse I'm not auto-chucking. We'll put it that way.
I tweeted it out as she won. I said, Magic Attitude is the best attitude to have. That's just, there's no better attitude than Magic Attitude. And Stat Boy just chimed in. I was getting to it, Aaron. Calm down. Grand Motion, not the trainer. Arnaud Delacour is. But
wow.
Like it's Delacour. But I will say, in your defense, Delacour is a lesser known version of Grand Motion in my eyes because he's a very talented horseman. He's not one of these power barns. He's not someone who takes a horse and they magically improve 20 buyer points. He's a very talented horseman that takes time and really is great at developing horses, especially on the turf. So I'm excited about Magic Attitude moving forward. They're saying that the QE2 Cup at Keeneland is going to be the final start for her, probably before the Breeders' Cup. What's interesting is that her full sister, named Mission Impassable, I don't know if you remember this horse from a couple of years ago. Mm-hmm. She was a Group 2 winner overseas. She came to North America and she finished second behind Rushing Fall in the QE2 Cup a couple of years ago. So now you've got Magic Attitude making her first start after winning a Group 3 in France. I think there's a lot of similarities here. And the fact that she's run well, that she's European and she ran well in Europe before coming over, I think gives her a big advantage over a lot of these horses in the Breeders' Cup. When you don't have a lot of American horses right now that you would want to take over anybody from Europe. If we're talking Enable, if she goes to the Filly Mare, if it's Love from Aidan O'Brien, if she comes over, there aren't many Americans that get me excited about facing those. Magic Attitude, yeah, she's a 3-year-old. She's late in her 3-year-old year by Galileo. If you're going to give me 15-1, I'll take her. I love her at that price.
Yeah, I think that's one of the keys is what this horse is going to actually go off at, because you do need to make sure you're getting value. I definitely don't want this horse at like 3-1, something like that. But like you said, she's facing solid horses over in France. I mean, you're looking at Group 1 winners, and you have she was running a $600,000 race in France last time out before coming over here. You got to give her a lot of respect. And so, you look up Fancy Blue, who won that race. Fancy Blue has won 4 or 5 career starts, multiple grade 1 winners. So it's not like she was facing bad horses over there. Mm-hmm. And I do like the fact, like you said, we get one under our belt, we get one race with Lasix before the Breeders' Cup. A lot of things that you can say that this horse could take a step forward.
All right, that's going to wrap things up. We talked about Woodbine. We talked about Belmont Oaks winner. A pretty light weekend. I enjoyed it. And then I woke up this morning while I was having breakfast. I was making out my schedule for this week. There's a lot happening this week, Mike. I don't know if you know about that. There are not 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. There are 6 Breeders' Cup winning your in races this weekend. I'm sorry, this Saturday.
Yep.
Just Saturday. 5 of them are at Santa Anita, which kicks things off on Friday. Then there are 2 more at Santa Anita on Thursday. And then if we're just looking ahead to the week after that, because I thought, well, maybe the week after will be easier. No, that's Preakness week. We have 12 stakes on Preakness Day. There are 7 Breeders' Cup winning year races on Saturday. There are 3 more on Sunday. So what I'm saying is, if I go a little crazy and I'm suddenly bald on the next show, you'll understand why.
You'll be wearing a hat. No, I'm excited to get this back, man. I did Samba Bombs from Belmont this weekend. I mentioned how it was just, in my mind, unpredictable. I can't wait to get away from that track. I'm excited to have Santa Anita come back. Friday's card looks awesome. I think it's 10 races, 86 entries. It's a solid card to play from a betting perspective. So you got to give credit to Santa Anita. And West Coast racing, I think, has been awesome from a betting perspective the last month and a half or so. It's been very predictable with decent field sizes. And so you just it's where you want to be playing right now in my mind. So I'm excited to get back to Santa Anita in that sense. And then, I know Keeneland's starting up shortly. We got Churchill Downs getting going. We got a bunch of different racetracks all over the place. They're going to have some fun little meets here leading up to the Preakness. And then obviously the Breeders' Cup, which is, just a short 6 weeks away now. Pretty crazy that the Breeders' Cup is just 6 weeks away.
Yeah, that's that's where I remind myself, like, okay, these are the last 2 really hellish weekends I think I'm gonna have. And it's also one of those things I was telling Mrs. Magic, I was like, I feel bad complaining, because I'm not really complaining. It's more just me going, I know what's about to happen to me. It's still exciting. I mean, if you're a racing fan, this is the worker part of me is kind of the fan in me is just like, oh my God, like the only thing that sucks is that you've only got one set of eyeballs to watch races at a time, because you're going to have Belmont, Santa Anita, Churchill, Gulfstream all running on top of each other. Prairie Meadows has their big Iowa Breeders' Day. You got the Oklahoma Derby on Sunday. There's just so much happening right now. So it's really exciting. And you can catch all that action over at racingnews.com. So make sure you head over there, check things out. While you're there, check out the handicap and products page. The Sama Bombs, been a little slow for you, but things come in waves. We're used to this. You know, the people who are the long-term subscribers know this, and that's why they stay long-term subscribers, because it's one of those things that happens for you. Are you thinking? I mean, this is a big weekend for them. You were just talking them up.
Yeah, it will definitely be Santa Anita on Friday, and probably Santa Anita on Saturday as well.
Then
we'll figure out. Oh, no, I'm still here. I can hear you. So yeah, Santa Anita will be on Friday, Santa Anita Saturday, and we'll see what we do on Sunday, depending on what goes on. But I would assume we're probably going to be at Santa Anita all weekend. We saw a first huge weekend from Del Mar after that break. I think we'll see the same thing from Santa Anita here.
Somebody popped up real quick. Keeneland, I believe they start on October 2nd. So you've got one more week before Keeneland kicks things back off.
Yeah, early picks. Aaron, I like. I think Baltimore win the game, but man, it's tough to not take Chiefs plus the points next Monday night. As for this Monday night, I like the props on Kamara over for passing yards, just 52.5 right now, and I think Cook gets the majority of the work, not Sanders. That over right now it's like 49 yards. Don't really love the game tonight though. I think it's tough. Raiders getting 5.5.
You know what's also tough? Being a Lions fan. It's just I didn't think that you were trying to rile me up earlier. You said sorry. You're just like, sorry that the coach is so shitty. And I'm like, yeah, I haven't. Yeah, here's a great idea. When you're a defensive coordinator and you give up the most offense in Super Bowl history, and you lost a game to a backup quarterback who hasn't done jack shit since then that's who you want to hire as your head coach? Okay, thanks. Yeah. This is the Lions in a nutshell. Yeah. If the Browns did the same thing, I did be reacting the same way. Yeah, this is what they do. These are why these teams are always terrible.
It's hilarious to me that like the Lions got the sharp action that they were going to win the division. And I'm like, did everyone forget Matt Patricia's their coach? Like, didn't we hate Matt Patricia 2 years and last year? Like, wasn't he terrible? And then I see that stat where Matt Patricia is 2-6-1, being up 10 points, and every other head coach is like 50-something 4-2. And then at the same time, I see a stat that Mahomes is now 10-0, being down 10 points in a game. And so you see those two, and the juxtaposition between you and Jared and the fan bases. I kind of cracked up there. And yeah, I wasn't trying to poke fun at you. I'm a Dolphins fan. I don't poke fun at people for their football opinion, because my life sucks from a football fandom anyway. So I feel bad that you're strapped with this and you can't do anything about it. Hopefully, you get a new coach here shortly, but that stat blew me away. It was like 2-6-1, I think, with a 10-point lead, and everyone else was 54-4-2 or something crazy like that.
I gotta find it. Aaron sent me this, and then we'll stop with the NFL talk and go away. Kyler Murray. Aaron's a big Oklahoma football fan, so the fact that he had Kyler Murray the year after Baker Mayfield was pretty great for him. Kyler Murray currently has more rushing yards than Christian McCaffrey, more rushing touchdowns than Ezekiel Elliott, and more passing yards than Patrick Mahomes. That's a pretty good stat line if you're a second-year quarterback.
Yeah, let's just say that Aaron should burn his Cleveland Browns flag and fly a Cardinals one, because then you'd have the better Oklahoma quarterback. Watching him play is incredible. I think that if we played two-hand touch in the NFL, people would still whiff on Kyler Murray. He is that elusive. If you watch his 2 touchdown runs, it's just like the guy can get out of the phone booth. It's unbelievable. It's just a little shimmy shake and he's home, man. It's incredible. You gotta love some Kyler Murray, man. If he can stay healthy, because he's like 5'0" and 180 and like soaking wet. If he can stay healthy, he can be a superstar. It's that one question. He is to me a better version of Michael Vick, and that's saying something.
Yeah, I agree. That's a great comparison, and I'm happy to see that he did well. I'm sorry, Aaron, that you rode the wrong Browns or the wrong Oklahoma quarterback. Yeah, man, you were just so missed it by that much. Make sure you follow us on Twitter. I'm at Chris Collard. He's at SummerBomb18, number 1, number 8. Corporate overlords are at racing_dudes. Again, go to racingnews.com. You can check out all the race recaps and replays from the races that Mike and I talked about. We'll be back on Thursday with a late pick 4 preview show. Early forecast, Mike, I'm going to guess we want to do Santa Anita because that's where a lot of the fun's at. We'll decide later. We'll let you guys know. Until then, this has been another episode of the Magic Mike Show. Thanks so much for listening. I'm Magic.
And I'm Mike.
We'll see you next time.
The The Magic Mike Show, where you hear the experts speak. The Magic Mike Show. Tune into the show every week. The Magic Mike Show. You can trust the show is the bomb because it's being brought to you by RacingDudes.com.